topic today is love your enemies. Our first principle, universal truth principle, is that there is only love. That this love is absolute and unchanging. It doesn't come, it doesn't go. It's birthless, it's deathless. It is absolute. Is as much love as there's ever been in this universe is right here and right now in this room. There'll be no more love in the future than there is right now, and there's no more love in the past than there is right now. This extraordinary vastness, oceanic, unconditioned, unlimited love is right here and right now. So the question becomes, why aren't we just basking in this ever-present love? Why aren't we radiating and pulsating pure love from every atom and cell of our being? We're all walking Buddhists in Christ, realized, enlightened beings. And the reason is because we all contain ignorance within us. We all have these blocks and obstacles that distract us from who we really are. And so for me, the entire purpose of our spiritual journey is to continue to heal these places within us, those dark places, those places that we consider other, that separate us from our inherent being, our inherent presence, this inherent love that is always already. So the purpose of originally the talk was going to be caring for ourselves, loving our shadow side. And then next week I was going to talk about loving the world shadow side. As I was looking at my own personal place of shadow, I recognize it intersects with the world shadow. And so I'm going to tell a personal story today. However, what I believe is that this is always true, that we are one with the universe. So anything that we're experiencing inwardly is also part of the cosmos, and the cosmos is part of us. What's happening on this earth and the collective unconsciousness impacts us. No one is an island. So everything, these places of ignorance, darkness, shame, whatever those places of separation, we're all impacted. How do we live love in the midst of it? The number one thing that I want to say is that for me, I don't believe there are groups of people or individuals to blame. The way I look at it, I'm very influenced by Paramahansa Yogananda because it resonated with me when I heard it. Joel Goldsmith actually says the same thing, but in a different way. That the only thing that is against us, the only enemy we have is ignorance. That the moment we recognize that we are one with all life in any area of our life, we have a moment of healing, a place where we felt separation, where now we feel oneness, it's dissolved into the nothingness from which it came. That pain, that suffering, whatever that was that separated us from that infinite love, it's gone forever, and we live in this eternality of love. Love is what survives. Love is what is eternal. Love is what continues. Anything unlike love or opposite of love or other than love dissolves into the nothingness from which it came. And so we are here to heal within ourselves places of ignorance, meaning places in ourselves that we feel are separate from this wholeness, from this oneness, from this infinite oceanic love of God. And we are here to be that collective healing in our world where there's places of ignorance. What does that actually look like? How do we apply this absolute unconditional love in the midst of everyday life, which is full of experiences that are temporary, that are passing? So we're all let's just take a deep breath together. So this week, there's a lot of energy around two bills that were passed in Alabama and Missouri around abortion. There's a lot of emotional energy around this topic. I'm not here to advocate for a perspective. I have my own personal perspective. One of the things that I love about our community is we allow people to have all sorts of perspectives. This center is not taking a stand. But the purpose today is not about taking one side versus another, but to stand in love in the midst of all of it. Because when we really start doing our shadow work or our work inwardly, what we recognize is it's not either or. It's not this is right and this is wrong. There's no absolutes. There's all these different facets of our soul. Our soul is multidimensional, and as we're doing that healing work, all of it starts to emerge and needs to be healed, and we can't do that if we're taking sides. Because if we're taking sides, there's going to be a side we're rejecting. The only way to heal is to accept all sides, which is really why I love the reading from Shunryu Suzuki. All sides are part of the process, all perspectives, and they're all in us. So when I was 19 years old, I had an abortion. I had forgotten, I just remembered this morning, after I had the abortion, I was very interested, so I was doing a lot of research on statistics. These are old statistics, but interestingly, most of the abortions are with white women 18 to 19 years old. I say that because when I was 19, found out I was pregnant, immediately decided I'm way too young. I'm in college. I'm way too young to have a baby. I am a child. I can't be, all the languaging. I'm a child. I can't raise a child. I don't know who I am. I wanted to be a great mother. That was one of them. And I knew I couldn't be a great mother at age 19. That was ridiculous. So I made the choice, my body, my choice. I decided to have the abortion. The weekend before the abortion, I was with friends. She went to another school. I went with her family to the Hamptons. We're on the beach. I'm falling asleep, and as I'm falling asleep, I notice a sailboat that's crossing the ocean. And Yogananda talks about that being a shifting consciousness of boats crossing the ocean. And there was a shift in consciousness. And as I went to sleep, I had what I call a vision dream. At the time, I wasn't really clear on vision dreams and what they meant. It's only in retrospect that I recognized it. But it was a very I knew it wasn't a normal dream. And in it, I was walking in a hotel room, and my boyfriend at the time, who was the father of the child, and our son, who was 5 or 6 years old, were in the bathroom, and they were playing and goofing around at the sink. And I went into the hotel room, and I'm getting stockings on. Clearly, there was an event we were there for. And I'm yelling, not yelling, just like, come on, hurry up, stop goofing around, we're going to be late. It was the most normal scene that we all are familiar with, the rushing to get ready. And in that awareness, I knew there was this presence that was saying, it's going to be fine. You're going to be fine. And I knew that life in me, regardless of all the science and the intellect, I knew because of that dream, this life was real. I woke up immediately from that dream, no way can I have this abortion. But then I returned to Boston, where my life was, college. And I went back to my other state. There's no way I get it. What am I thinking? No one I know, no one from high school, no one from college. I didn't know a single person who had gotten pregnant and had a baby and left school, and their boyfriend left school or whatever and became parents. That was just so outside of what was normal. In fact, I didn't know a single person that I just didn't have the courage to make that shift. So I went through with the abortion. But I also made the decision, I was definitely, and still am, just my own perspective, pro-choice. So I was very clear I did not want to be ashamed about it. I didn't want to walk around hiding it, to feel like I did something wrong. So it's not like I went around announcing it to everybody, but I was fairly open about having an abortion. And knocked me over with a feather, I started to discover all these other people who had had abortions. I had no idea. It was the most not talked about, shameful thing for so many people. I even had male friends who I didn't know their girlfriends, but they had said, oh yes, my girlfriend had an abortion. And it was upsetting to realize, first of all, I'm like, I wish I had known, because I think in my head I really didn't think this was ever going to happen. And I'm like, if all these people had talked about it, then maybe I would have been more cautious, because the other thing I discovered is that, first of all, I don't know anyone who goes through the experience and feels neutral about it. So, it's just an experience, and neither good nor bad, it's not a pleasant experience. Most of I would say, I have a small sample group. I don't know what the statistics are, but most of them never had an abortion again, because suddenly the rigor around birth control becomes much more passionate, because it's now a real possibility. So I wanted to talk about it. I especially wanted to talk about it with people my age, to say this happens, this is real, take precautions. Because the best way to avoid an abortion or even having to deal with a choice, is not getting pregnant. So I was open, talked about it. And then years later, I was at Agape, which is a community like this, but a mega community thousands of people under the leadership of Reverend Michael Beckwith. And 3 women and I did a 3-week workshop for women who had gone through abortions or miscarriages, because we wanted to deal with it spiritually. We wanted to really bring it out of the closet and really do a lot of healing work collectively as a community, women coming together. So women shared their experiences. We wrote letters of miscarriages, which was not a choice, abortions, which was a choice, and all there was a lot of pain in that room that needed to be shared and listened to and prayed for. And we ended the 3-week workshop with a memorial service, really honoring these lives. So I've done a lot of personal work with myself, with other women, and with the divine around this experience. When I had Julian, some more emotions came up, just because having a life made me go back to that, and so it's a little more healing, okay? So my grandmother had come to me a while ago asking me to write an autobiography for my healing. And I couldn't figure out what the healing was about. And as I've been working on this autobiography, I realized it's spiritual, things I hadn't integrated spiritually in my life. So my past is more present because I'm working on the autobiography. And then during this winter, I met a parent at Julian's school, and he had the same name as my first boyfriend, nickname. And it's not an unusual nickname, but it occurred to me I never actually met an adult with that same nickname. So it just brought up, I'm already in the past, just made the connection. And then he had little mannerisms that reminded me of my first boyfriend, and then it turned out he had the exact same middle name as my boyfriend. And there was just suddenly to be all these, it was like Spirit saying, pay attention, pay attention. And then he shares with me his son. He was 21 and his girlfriend was 19 when they had their son. That was the exact same age as my boyfriend and myself, 21 and 19. They chose to have their son and I didn't. And now I was seeing his son. I don't know his son personally, but I was seeing his son, who seems incredibly happy, has a great group of friends in the areas that he's passionate about. He's absolutely thriving. He's an incredible light. And it was like this dagger in my heart, because I thought, oh, that's what I chose not to do. Even though I had a boyfriend, how many of you noticed I didn't even bring him up, who wanted to have the baby. He did not want me to have the abortion. He was ready. He was a senior in college. He would have been almost done by the time the baby was born. He wanted to get married, have the child. I think as young people can do, which is why I think these pregnancies happen when you're younger, there was always that little fantasy, oh, what if we got married and had kids? But it was still a fantasy in me. I didn't think it was really going to happen. He wanted to follow through. I shut him out immediately. He had no say. My body, I'm a woman, this is my place. You don't get to say what's right or wrong for me. And I shut him down. As I'm having these conversations with this father, a beautiful man, and seeing his son, I realized how hurtful, how I had betrayed my first boyfriend, betrayed his heart, that he mattered, that his perspective mattered, that there was something that I had shut down in myself that he was speaking forth and I was not letting it in. So I reached out to him and asked for his forgiveness and owned how I had betrayed his heart. So there's been a lot of healing that's been happening recently for me all these years later. It's been 33 years. And then the healing, just even the last 2 weeks, it's like this floodgate. Once I open this floodgate, that maybe I made the wrong mistake, that it could have worked. Especially seeing this young man and how much he's thriving and how much I just shut down that is even a possibility that it could be a good thing. And I then recognized that soul that I saw in the vision dream, because another way I comforted myself through it was, well, a soul is eternal. You can't kill a soul. I don't want to use the word kill. And the life of a physical being, but I can't ever end the life of a soul. So I was always in contact with the soul, communicating, writing letters, and there was that part of me that felt Julian was a part of that soul being birthed. And I've had this conversation with him, just so you know. But it dawned on me for the first time ever in these last 2 weeks that when everyone is individual, everyone is unique. And that particular soul that I saw in that vision dream was never going to happen. That was my first boyfriend's DNA and my DNA. So it was an eternal soul, but that was a unique way that eternal soul was going to show up, and now it never would because of a decision I made. The grief has been intense. There have been days I just haven't gotten out of bed because it's the first time I've really let myself feel the pain of that experience, of really hearing and feeling a decision that I made. So then we get to this week and the laws, and as I open Facebook, just the rage in response. The rage against men, the rage against women's bodies are taking over. This is a war on women. We have to fight it. And I felt zero rage. I just felt this profound sadness because what I saw was such a separation. These men are, because it was all white men, so they took a picture, are out to take the rights of our women's body. They're bad and we're good and we're angry and we're going to fight them and we're going to fight this to the end. And suddenly, when are we men and women on separate pages? When are men and women at war with each other? Suddenly, this becomes this battle between genders. And I was just having my healing with my old boyfriend from 33 years ago, recognizing that I had chosen and he had chosen, and there had been deep hurt, and there was no one to blame. That healing doesn't come from blame ever. We are here to heal our ignorance. We are healed to hear our ideas where we feel separate and apart from God, when we are too afraid, in my case, to step in the power of knowing what God teaches us because it goes against the culture. We are here to stand in love in the midst of ignorance, and ignorance is in all of us. Ignorance is in all of us, and that's what it took me 33 years to just have this healing. Now I will say this, if people have been telling me, I grew up and submersed myself in sort of a very liberal, open, accepting world. I obviously have because I'm up here talking about it, and if I felt that you were all judging me and condemning me, I probably wouldn't be having this conversation. If I had spent my years having to defend myself, being told I was wrong and evil for making that choice, I would have spent so much time defending and pushing back, my heart would have never been soft enough to heal. How many of us can heal when we're being attacked? How many of us can shift our perspective when we are being told we are wrong for our perspective? You're less than, you're evil. Both ways. And we have all the arguments to say, I read incredibly brilliant stuff, but I actually had to stop following people who I agree with, but the anger was so intense, the consistency of the hammering away, I had to stop. Because I'm here for love. I'm not here to attack anybody. There's very few times in my life when I do it right, but I did do it right one time, where I was having a conversation. There was a leadership conference every year that Robert Schuller had down at Crystal Cathedral. This was Anaheim. I don't know if any of you have been to Crystal Cathedral. It's gorgeous. And so they were ministers they were all Christian, but they came from all denominations. Very conservative, very traditional, and then to us New Thoughters who are the most liberal. I got into a conversation, and they always had us breaking off to small groups, and I was in a conversation with a minister who believed very differently than I did, had a very strong sense of the devil and what was wrong and good and evil. And I think it was one of those moments where it wasn't me. I just met him, I just believed he was about love. Even though he had all these beliefs and had strident beliefs that were against what I believed, I kept saying, but we're about love. And so I kept meeting him and talking about love and Jesus and what Jesus was really about. And then talking about love in the midst of the devil. And so everything he said that I could agree with, I would agree with. And then go maybe a little bit step further. And by the end, he said it was the most powerful conversation that he'd ever had, and he's actually had stuff to think about after he left. Because we weren't adversaries. We were in it together. We are on this planet together. We are all here doing our best we can. Now, there's a lot of ignorance out there. There is a lot of ignorance out there. But we do not heal ignorance through, as as we heard in Shinrin Suzuki today, by forcing our ideas, by attacking. We heal ignorance by standing in the power of love. One in God is a majority. Love is the only thing that lasts. Love is the only thing that is eternal. That when we continue to have our conversations from love, we can have all the different perspectives that we want. But when we're speaking from love, as love, in love, through love, then the possibilities of healing can happen. Now, let me just say, it can take longer. I think of the way we ended slavery in our country was the Civil War. It was a 5-year war. It was brutal war. So much bloodshed. The Battle of Gettysburg, one battle in the Civil War, more people died in that one battle than the entire Vietnam War. It was a brutal war for this country. It did end slavery. England also ended slavery. It took them a lot longer because they didn't have a brutal war. They had to do it through persistence and conversations and making those changes happen over time. So it took longer, but they didn't have the level of destruction that we had here, the loss of lives that we had here. So we need to be careful about the language that we are using. When someone says this is a war on women, it just makes my heart constrict. It's a war on love maybe, but if you're in love, love's not at war with anything. Do we understand this principle? Love is not at war, ever. Love is not at war, ever. Love is speaking its truth, living its truth. And I remember years ago the Corinthians passage, and I never liked it. Love is patient and endures all things and bears all things. I'm like, I want love to change everything instantly in this moment. Healing happens. But as I've gotten older, I realize love endures all things. It bears all things. It's patient and it's kind. And I'm like, all those things that I wanted to push against, it's actually true. It may take longer to heal. I think the reason why we push back is we feel physically threatened. But spirit is never threatened. And the more people who are standing in spirit, in love, in truth, and kindness, the more these shifts can happen with greater gentleness. Again, when have we ever changed? When have I ever changed when I've been attacked? I tell you, if you start attacking me, I'm going to disagree with you just to disagree with you. I will fight you to the end because I will not be made wrong. Right? At least, I can't speak for you. I can speak for myself. That's not where the healing's going to happen. That's not where we're going to heal this intense experience. So I was using abortion as an example because there's so much emotion, because it's about life. But even as I've read all these memes, it comes into violence of all kinds. It brings up every other issue. And I mean, it's just been this massive attack. And we live in a country right now that I think is incredibly divided, and we all feel this righteousness to attack the other because we are so clear. I know I'm clear that I'm always far more right than the other guy. I don't know. but I certainly see it on social media. We're far more clear and more articulate, and we have more great points, and that may be true. The reason why I was telling someone, the reason why I think I'm more right than other people is because I feel like my rightness includes more people and their rightness excludes people. So their view is smaller than my view, so I win. Love has to include everyone, even those people who we fundamentally disagree with. Sometimes those conversations really help when we come from oneness. Sometimes there's no point to engage. Joel Goldsmith, in the end of his reading, was saying, spirit works in silence. I read a wonderful letter by Bertrand Russell, who won a Nobel Prize, and it was a fascist, the guy who started the fascist party in Britain, invited him to get into a debate. He said, I wanted to have a public debate. I want you to understand the value of fascism. And Bertrand Russell was a very polite man. He wrote a very polite letter back, and he said, no, we come from such different worlds, there's no benefit from us having a dialogue about this. And so I will not engage because you fundamentally disagree with, you come from another world and fundamentally disagree with core values that I hold true. He didn't engage. Silence. So sometimes that's also the response, that you just feel like, I just look at myself. If you had told me when I was 19 years old, I had to give my boyfriend's perspective more value, there was a huge wall. There was no receptivity there at all to that idea or thought. It's my body, my choice. He has no say. I don't want to hear it because I know he wants to have the baby, so ignore him. Doesn't exist. I could not have heard. You can talk to me and debate with me all day. I wouldn't have heard it. Ignorance doesn't listen sometimes, or a lot of times. That's when we stay in the love and inwardly. We have to be the warriors of love, which means without fail, stay in that love inwardly, no matter what is happening externally. And we have to do the work ourselves. The reason why I've gotten to a deeper appreciation of how painful, how I just can't be hard about it anymore, about this is the way it's supposed to be, because I've been through so much healing in myself, so much pain and crying and tears myself. My heart has softened towards myself, towards the decisions that I make that I regret. How can I be so sure of myself out there? When we do our own inner work, we become softer, more open, more kind and gentle with ourselves. We recognize how many times we fall short of our expectations, how much ignorance has been inside of me, how many choices I've made, actions I've done, words that I have said that have come from an ignorance, from not recognizing who and what I really am. And as I do that work, how can I hold other people with that angry judgment? What did Jesus say? Those who have not sinned, cast the first stone. So we do our own interior work. We become honest with ourselves. And I'm going to just end with this. If we are emotionally intensely triggered by something external, Andrew Harvey calls it hot anger, different than cold anger. Cold anger just says, that's wrong. I'm going to stand up for what's right. By the way, Joel Goldsmith, as much as he was in oneness, he still participated and wrote letters to his government and had perspectives, but stayed in the oneness. That's like when Gandhi was thrown off the train in South Africa. He said he felt anger. He channeled that cool anger into action, into nonviolence, peaceful resistance. Emotional anger, when I'm just really agitated and it's keeping me up at night and I'm warm, that's stuff I haven't healed in myself. It seems like it's out there, but it's in me. And if there is that emotional response to a connection with a person, if I get agitated with a person and every time I'm with them I get agitated, I have to say, what's going on inside of me? Because it's not about me fixing the other person. We're one. I'm you and you're me. What's going on inside of me? And as I get to do the healing work for myself and have compassion for my fear, my limited, my not enoughness, whatever is being emerging from this conversation, as I continue to do that work, I approach the conversation from a different state of consciousness. Do we understand? Do you get this? You're healing this work. We are becoming love. And first and foremost, we are loving any enemy within us. And the only enemy there is ignorance of who and what we really are. And we approach it with compassion, with love, with gentleness, with kindness. And the more we do that, the more we can show up in the world as that patient love and kindness. We can still stand for our principles, still state our beliefs, but from a completely different place, from a place of oneness. I disagree with you, but I'm one with you. I have a very different perspective, but we're all in this together. You're not over there and I'm over here. It's time to heal the separation. That's what we are about in our community, and that demands incredibly deep and powerful work. It is work that sometimes can break our heart open. That's why the work of Brené Brown is so beautiful. But that is what it's going to take to heal. One thing just keeps coming to my mind. I was moved when I read an autobiography of a yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda, his spiritual teacher, who he presents as a very enlightened man, who he loved as his teacher. When his teacher dies, he comes back and visits Yogananda. And one of the things he says is, I'm sorry I was so harsh to you. I didn't need to be so harsh in the way I taught you. And Yogananda said, oh no, that was great. You cleared me of my ego stuff and got me into love. And Sri Yukteswar said, I didn't need to be harsh to teach you, to bring you to love. I could have done it through love. And I think that moves me so much because he was considered a spirit. I don't know him, so that's why I say considered, because I don't know. A spiritually awake person. We are all working on this together. We are all, no matter how far we are along in the spiritual path, we have those places where we just say, we can be harsh. So be gentle with our limitations. Be gentle with our imperfections. Be gentle with those places where we get angry and think there's other. We're all in this together. We're all healing together. We're all returning to love over and over again every day, every hour, every breath. And so let us, even in this moment, just breathe in and be in this love. There's a lot being shared here today. I am aware that as we are in this room, there are other people who've had experiences with abortions, not because you tell me, I just never been in a room where that isn't so. And so there may be things arising for you, personally, intellectually, ethically. Wherever we are standing in this moment, let us begin by standing in love. Before creation there was love. Through all creation there is love. And after creation there is love. This love is eternal for all beings. Love is never at war. Love does not need to fight. Love simply is. And this is the place where we always begin. Love is. We don't need to make love happen. We don't need to do anything to make there to be more love. All the love that has ever been and ever will be, this transcendent love that is beyond description, the things that poets write about, that spiritual mystics dance about, all of it is right here, right now, where we are. And we allow ourselves to remember that we are made in the image and likeness of love, that which is most real about us is love. Each and every one of us in this room, this collective consciousness, we are collectively in agreement that there is only love, that is the source, that is our eternal soul, and this is where we stand and sit and live in, through, and as pure, unconditional, unlimited love. And we recognize that even as our hearts and our bodies and our minds are willing, there are places within us that won't quite let go, that we don't even know are there, that are calling forth to be healed, to be revealed, so that we may know this love more directly and more powerfully and more profoundly than we ever thought possible. We are open even now and willing to allow whatever needs to be healed within us. Those places that are hidden, those places that are unconscious because we don't see them, they are open to be healed even now. They are being called forth in gentleness and softness and compassion. The tools that we need to feel into these healing processes are all made available to us. Everything is here to serve us to be this love, to become this love, to be patient in our healing. It is not something that is overnight, but it is a life process of becoming love, and more love. And everything that is happening this day, this week, this month, this year in our lifetime is here to serve us in being this love. We are here to be love, to live in love, to speak as love, to feel into love in everywhere, in every interaction, in every situation, within ourselves and in the world. This is why we are here, and we are claiming and accepting that everything that is blocking us from the past, from our ancestors, from our bloodlines that have been inherited, that are in part of our race consciousness, all of it, we are willing to be places and vehicles of healing now, to be vortexes of healing now, to be this place of unlimited, unbounded, unconditional love now. We are saying yes. We are saying yes to being these healing vortexes for our own life, in our family's life, in our community's life, in our work life, as a citizen of this planet and in the cosmos. We are the vortexes of healing, love, and light now. We claim it, we accept it, we see it, we embrace all aspects of our being as involved and participating in, through, and as love. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. As we have claimed and accepted this word here today, we know that it is done because love has already been fulfilled as us today. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We release this word. We let it be, and I invite us all to say together now, and so it is. Amen and amen.
So it is. So it is.
Amen and amen. Amen, amen, amen. How y'all feeling?